Some days as a YouTuber are quite good. Today's one of those. I'm down here at Blyton Park as a guest of the people at MS Supercars on a little private charity track day that they're hosting. And we've decided to put together this video. It's a little triple test of track cars. And here they are, quite a lineup. Now one of them you will be familiar with already. It's this, my 625 brake horsepower, supercharged, track-pepped E92 M3. This, not so much. This is a 2007 Lotus Exige S with the 220 horsepower supercharged 1.8 litre Toyota engine. And this is a 2007 Mark 1 911 997 GT3 with a pretty nice spec in it. So you've got three different flavours. You've got 220 brake, 420, 620. This car probably weighs about 850 kilos. This one about 1350, 1400, and this one 1600. This one is pretty standard but has a very good spec. Same for this one. This one is heavily modified. These two are about the same money, 30-something thousand pounds. This one is quite a bit more thanks to the Porsche price madness of late. This is front-engined. This is mid-engined. This is rear-engined. They are all rear-wheel drive and they're all wearing different tyres, different setups. So I'm wearing Yokohama street spec tyres on here. This is wearing Yokohama more racy AO48, and this is wearing Pirellis. They're all very different cars with very different characters, but they all have one purpose: to make you happy over there. So let's go out. What am I going to start with? Well, I think it's going to be this, the cute little Lotus, because, well, I've not been in one in a while and I can't wait to get back behind the wheel. Now, as mentioned, this one has a very good spec. It's got the touring pack, it's got the super touring pack, it's got the sports pack, it's got all sorts of stuff. The most important thing as far as we're concerned for track use is that it has adjustable Bilstein dampers. Now, I don't know how they're set up or when they were last set up, but that is significant. Now, this car is one of that glorious generation of car that got the 2ZZ Toyota engine, so it revs to about 8.5 and it's supercharged. They are mega little things. Now, I have been warned that the brakes in this car are not that good because it's got some reasonably cheap Brembo pads in it. I do know that when they're good, these things can brake quite well, but they can never brake quite as well as a sort of larger, heavier car with bigger tyres up the front. It's just physics at work. This is fast. Quite soft as well. Oh God, I miss the Lotus. The thing with an Exige, you just get on the power so early. Oh, it revs keenly. Now, the last one of these that I drove was quite a bit quicker. It was about 260 and maybe a little bit more horsepower, and it was wonderful. And this is the first time I've been in one of these in ages. I've never been in this car and it's not mine, and I'm already driving it at a fair pace. And it feels like a really special thing. It's loud as well, which I'm sure is coming across. Crackles and pops on the overrun too. Oh, it's just so intuitive. Steering is wonderful. Oh yes, it's such a light car, and you really feel it. Oh, it responds beautifully. Now, I believe this does have traction control, but the best way is to pretend that it doesn't, because it's in this generation of Exige and Elise where they went from having nothing to having traction. And honestly, I was never a specialist in Series 2 cars. Well, you feel it. It's very soft for a track car. Oh, and it moves. Yeah, it's that's horrible. Oh, it's just so easy, it's so friendly. Now, the good thing about these as well, because they're small and light, they are good on their brakes and tyres and consumables. They're pretty reliable too. Once they're well set up, they're good, and they are probably the best supported Lotus product in terms of aftermarket parts and setup. And oh my life, this thing moves! Wow. Bear in mind, I have been playing already this morning in my M3 with nearly triple the power. This does not feel slower at all. Okay, I'm much lower and closer to the ground, which is always going to impact how you feel, but this is a delight. Oh, brakes are hideous. The back end just comes around a little bit. Nice, it's playful. Wonderful. Oh, it makes a good noise. For a 4-cylinder engine, it makes a lovely noise. The front end is easy. Now, in difficult conditions, these aren't so great because you just can't get that front end to bite. You need to take some time to get the front end warm. Oh, it just changes direction brilliantly. But it is just a bit soft for track use, I think. The nice thing about a well set up one of these, you're on the power so early. I mean, when I was on the track at Watkins Glen, you weren't even apexing and you're on the power. And there's so much torque with the supercharged engines. With the naturally aspirated thing, you've got to keep it on the boil all the time. This one, not so much. Just revving it out is just a delight. The thing is, with a more powerful version of these as well, see, Elises, they're great cars, but they're not a car for power circuits. Places like Snetterton and so on and so forth. However, when you start to get into the supercharged variants, especially the higher powered ones or modified ones, they go so well. You really can keep your own with the bigger machinery. Oh, it's just... oh, carving through these corners is a delight. The gear shift in this is actually pretty good as well. The last one I drove of these was a left-hand drive, so I was shifting. There you go, just the back end just comes around just a tiny bit, and you just get back on it. Whee. What a machine! Now, the only problem with these is that they are very expensive. I mean, these are basically the same amount to buy now as they were when they were brand new. But the good news is they're holding their money really, really well. And if you want a car that you don't have to do masses to really enjoy yourself on track, and probably of all the cars we're going to drive today, this is the cheapest to run. Yes, they may occasionally break, but there's loads of specialists out there. There's loads of parts out there. And in terms of consumables, these will be by far the best in my life. These may be old. In fact, all the cars I'm driving today are about 10 years old. But there's very few things can put a smile on your face like one of these. And the benefit, of course, of this small car is that when you then drive it on the road, which in fairness, I think this car is probably just as well suited to the road as it is track. When you're driving these on road, they're easy to place. You're not taking up the entire road, and you can really enjoy yourself. Oh, I could drive just this all day and be very, very happy. But I got a job to do. I know, it's a hard life. I'm going to change from this little cramped interior to a slightly more upmarket 911. Not a bad old day, this, really. First ever drive of a 997 GT3. And it's on a nearly empty track. In fact, the thing I've got to chase is a Boxster Spider. So not even a bad thing to be looking at the back of either. Now I'm going to be getting this car up to temperature, but the first thing you feel is how light the steering is compared to the Exige. Now this is one of the last of the Metzger engined cars. The later 991 GT3s had a totally different engine. From low down, it doesn't feel like it pulls quite as strong as the Lotus, but there's every chance that a lot of that is just a placebo effect, because this car is so much more refined. At about 4,500 RPM, that induction note changes dramatically, and it sounds like a pretty tasty car. And we get everything warm. It's so weird driving a 911 quickly around here. It moves so much and shake. And the earlier 996 GT3s, of which I've driven several, but all on the road, they had no traction control. This is the first one to actually have it. At 420 horsepower and about 300 pound-foot of torque, this has actually got very similar numbers to my Evora, and it even weighs pretty much the same too. Wow, it's amazing. It's really bobs and weaves around that corner. Oh, this revs to 8,400 RPM, which is the same as his Carrera GT. Not quite the same engine though, and it does like revving. Okay, she's getting warm now, so I'm gonna start driving it probably, but it's amazing how much it bumps and shifts around that corner. Brake pedal is great, nice and hard, very progressive. Oh, it's so different. It's such a light front end in these cars, and that steering actually doesn't have as much feel and feedback as you might think it does. This is what driving a Lotus does to you, because I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people there poised at their keyboards ready to say, what did you just say, a 997 GT3 doesn't have much feel through the steering? Well, yeah, I did. Because if you just come out of a Series 2 Exige, it doesn't. Heaven help me when I get back into my M3, how that's going to feel. Let's start pushing this thing a little bit more and see how she does. Oh, yeah. Long gears, second is good for 75. Actually, basically the same as my Evora. Well, it's this corner here, look at this. As it bobs round, it just kicks. Yeah, it feels like it's almost, yeah, through there you can feel it really sliding and moving. Third is good for 113 in third. Jeez. Long gears, which is a shame because this gearbox is so nice to use. And yeah, not massively torquey low down at all. The view out's not quite as good as the Exige. Oh, it's got hangs on through the corners. It is moving a lot though, really is. Not sliding. The whole car's just shaking left and right as that front end's bobbing and weaving. And okay, it's a very classic 911 thing to do, but actually a lot of more modern 911s don't do that. I've driven a classic 964 around here before, a track car, and actually this feels quite similar to that. Okay, track to ourselves. If you aren't familiar, these cars also were available only with a manual gearbox, and then the 991.1, which I've driven that came after, was available only with a PDK, and then they went back to giving people a choice. Yeah, you can't shift quickly. Even when you're doing, say, the third to fourth shift. Not a gearbox that you can rush. You can get the power down early. Big boots at the back, as is always the case with 911s. Engine does sound glorious. Now, it sounds good from in here, but it sounds great from outside. What a little screamer. Actually, all three cars we're driving today have rev limits of over 8,000. Proper old lumps. This is the only one that's naturally aspirated, the other two being supercharged. Nice. You take a bit of curb there, it doesn't mind that. Yeah, it's corners like that are tricky because you're not really a correct gear for it. Gearbox actually feels a little bit on the reluctant side, very stiff, very mechanical feel. Brakes are great, tips in nice. Yeah, starting to get into a flow with it now. Gotta be careful because you can actually easily over rev this, I think, because you get used to the gears being so long, and then you carry some serious speed. Wow, what a thing! Oh, love it. This is quick. This is really quick. I got to be going around here as quick as I do in the M3. I have to be. This is a beautiful car. Is it really better than the Lotus? View out the back is great as well. You got that wing just cutting the rear mirror in half. That note is just sublime. Oh, this is a lot of fun. This really is. My first time driving a 997 GT3, and it's good. Yeah. There we go. Through, bounce, bounce, curb, power down, go, 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 7,000, 8,000, change, 6, 7, brake hard, don't change down into this corner, tip it in on the power, bit of the yellow stuff, down, brakes, clutch, change, round, power, enjoy it, edge of the track, back through, straighten it out, power, 7, 8, change, power, out, edge, right, lift, dab, get the front weighted up, through. Oh, I don't care if it's not quicker than the M3. It's a damn good amount of fun to hustle. And that's what I'm here to judge. Oh, this is going to be tough. This is going to be tough. Well, now I've had some fun in James's cars. Let's hop in the M3 and see what she's like. And now the M3, the only car out of the three with an automatic style gearbox, in this case a dual clutch, and the only one actually available with a choice, because you could have these in manual as well. By far the most powerful of the three, by far the heaviest of the three as well, and also the most modified. Doesn't really feel any quicker at lower RPM than the 911 or indeed the Exige, and it feels the most disconnected out of all of them. It is quick, no doubt about it, but I've got to get it up to temperature first. Yeah, the steering is a little on the lifeless side. Now, I do have some trouble with my brakes as well. I've got some pad transfer which I'm dealing with at the moment, but we should just ignore that because that's not supposed to be there and it will be fixed. Now, modifications to this car, just to summarise, include suspension, supercharger, wheels, brakes, aero, the works. This is very, very different from a standard E92 M3. Probably about 30 to 35,000 pounds worth of upgrades done to this car. So, yeah, it's not a cheap build at all. It's been done very well, but it is running on road tyres, which is the main thing kind of holding it back at the moment. Now you might think because it's supercharged it's going to have lots and lots of punch from low down, but it really doesn't. That centrifugal supercharger just enhances the natural characteristics of this engine, which is a very rev-happy lump going again to about 8,400 RPM, and all the big power really is above 6,000. It does pull hard, it really does. It just builds and builds and builds, and when you think you should probably be changing, you look down and realise you've got another 2,000 RPM to go. Now, it is the best sounding out of all of them. Whoa, the rear is a bit lively at the moment. I've got the car in MDM mode, which is the halfway house traction control. Brakes probably the best out of all the cars as well, and part of that's due to the fact that this car is running big front tyres. They are 275 square setup on this car, and massive Brembo GT brakes with Hawk pads. Not sure of the brand of the discs, but they're J-hooks. Oh, and it is quick around here. It is really quick. The faster you go, the more feel and feedback you get, mostly through the chassis, but you do get some through the steering as well. And again, the only front-engined out of the three cars, and therefore has a totally different feel about it. Wow. MDMO catching the little slide there. Wow. It is quicker than the GT3 in a straight line, but not actually by as much as you might think. I think with big horsepower cars, you need a long, long straight for that power advantage to really manifest itself. But it's quite a playful car. You really can mess around with it. Through these bends, you can feel the fact that it's more front-end dominated than the Porsche, but it doesn't move around in the same way. That Porsche is constantly bobbing and weaving. This thing's much more planted, feels much more serious, more hardcore, and less talkative. Because you've got the dual clutch box, you can make sure that you are in the right gear at all times. You can take a bit of curve with this. I've got to be careful with the taller ones because I've got a very low front end on this car. I would say, I can tell you already, in terms of fun, this is the worst of the three cars. I mean, it is still fun, but it's a visceral type of thing. It's not got the interaction. The Lotus is more of an event. the GT3's got the driver involvement, and the car moves around. It feels like the GT3 feels like the biggest challenge out of all of them, whereas this thing's just a weapon. Oh, it's insane. It's quick, really quick round here. Now I am on street tyres. Those Yokohama V105s do much better than you think they have any right to. Am I enjoying it more than the others? No, if I'm being honest. Throwing it around a bit more, mostly because it's mine. If I break it, it's only me I've got to answer to. Shit, it moves. You've got to remember that you pick up so much more speed, and you've got to bring a big old heavy lump to a stop. Way. She's quite fun, quite progressive when she does that. It's not scary at all. I'm not the sort of person that really goes sideways in every car that they drive. It's not my kind of style, but this makes it feel quite easy to do. To laugh, oh yeah, back end out, feel the diff working. It's a beast, but it's also today's loser. I'll freely and happily admit that. Probably the fastest of the three, probably is. Not timed them, not done anything like that, because this is a track day, that would be naughty. However, when you think of the spec and you look at the car, you think it should be miles quicker than the others. Simply put, it's not. The Exige is the most special thing to be in, and it's just a hoot to drive and feels just as quick, and you feel like you're at the center of it a bit more because you've got that manual gearbox and the world's best steering, and it also sounds great. It's the most compromised car as well. The loudest inside by far. But it is great fun. And the GT3, well, the GT3 is a very special thing, but it's also a lot more expensive than the other two. And unfortunately, if you're just looking at a track car, you're ignoring the whole investment and all that nonsense. Kind of difficult to justify. And SM3 is a very fun thing, and in its own right, quite special. But it, simply put, is not the best car here today. Thanks for watching, guys. And thanks again to the people at MS Supercars for having me down. It's been a blast, and it's only 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.